Alrighty. So I showed you a little bit a couple 3 weeks ago, but now we're going to start like an official lesson on C# desktop apps. Now, I'm going to preface this again, right? I'm going to try not to say this every single time, but I am not a C# guy. I'm a SQL guy who's taught himself C#, and I've managed to do some pretty nifty things. So there may be some C# people that watch this and just pull their hair out and go, "What are you doing? That's not how you do that." But, you know, I'm showing you what I know, right? Um, and it'll take you much further than what you've got now. All right. So first and foremost, we have to create a project. So we're going to create a new project. Cool. And we don't want to go with a console application in this case because, in fact, I'm just going to go down to the C# stuff, filter out all that other stuff, because console application is just what it sounds like, right? It's just going to be text spitting out to a console screen. And while that has its place for sure, we're going to start with desktop apps because console apps are a little bit simpler, right? So, no, you could also make a class library, which again is just going to be a series of classes that you're going to expose, that you're going to compile into a DLL and expose to something, right? So we're not interested in that right now, although you'll find that, that's actually a lot easier than a desktop app as well. Once you get the concept down, it's not really that bad. So what we're going to look for is, let's come over here to project types. Let's go to desktop. And we don't want an in-unit test. How about just a good old fashioned Windows Forms app? So I'm going to click on that one, go to next. I could probably double click on it too. And so right now, let's just call it app 1. There we go. And I'll let it do that. You could, add it to a different solution. You can place the solution and project in the same directory, sure. Pick a target framework. 472 is just fine with us. And I'm going to create. And it's going to come up with a blank form. There we go. Now, there's going to be a lot of new things here. But first and foremost, I want to show you a general outline of how this stuff works. I'm just going to increase the size of this form. So every one of these things has a designer and a code behind. Okay. So if I come here in the designer, so I can see designer generated code, there's not much here right now. I've got a form, right? But if I come here and say, where the hell is the toolbox? All I have is the SIS toolbox. Yeah. So I need the toolbox. There we go. So I'll just say common controls, and let's just drag a button onto here. So when I do that, I've got my button text right here, right? This is how it initializes the button.
Yep.
So that's where stuff that you drag onto the designer gets put, right? Is in the designer CS. But there's also a CS that you write to. So you see here, I'm looking at the form. I can right click on the form and say view code. And this is where your class code goes. Okay. So you'd put it, right inside the class. And this is the load method. So you'd put it right inside the load method. Now, you can create your own stuff. Like you can use the code to create a button if you want to, and it can go in here. That's fine, right? But when the designer does it, it does it over here. But it's the same thing. I could drag all of this code and put it inside here, and it would be just fine. right? So just because the designer puts it in a different form doesn't mean that you can't do the same thing here. And it doesn't mean that you can't grab code from another form and put it in this form. And this form's designer, right? So all these things get put together at compile time. So just know that, if you're looking for the code, if you drag something else over here, there it is. I'm going to pin that. There we go. So if I drag a label over here now, perfect. Just know that that code is going to show up here in the designer.cs. And again, everybody has it, right? Every form has that. So let's see. Now, let's talk about, let me kill some of this stuff. Let me get rid of this guy, and I'll keep that for now. So now, let's say that you want to change the name of the button. Easy enough. I'm going to go ahead and pin properties too. And you got the text and you got the name. And I think the name, do I have them alphabetical? I like to do them alphabetically because it's hard for me to find otherwise. So
Yeah.
there is a
Highlighted
name.
button 1, the text.
No, that's the text. I'm looking for the name of the object. Here it is, name. It's in parentheses.
Yeah.
So I want to call it btn, and I'll say submit. And then I want to call this
Submit.
There we go. Right there. So I like to name objects for the type of object they are, right? So if it's a button, I put btn. If it's a label, I put label name, right? And then you can give it an initial text, and I'll just say name goes here. There we go. So easy enough. But I like but you know me, right? I like all of my labels together, all of my buttons together. And so I can select this here, and I can go between both of these guys, and you can see the properties change. But if you got a lot of properties and some of them are hidden, and if you got a lot of objects, right, and some of them are hard to get to, it's just as easy to go here. In fact, it's easier to go here. And that way I can, again, I have all my labels, so I can just switch between them that way, and I can switch, I can turn on the form object as well, right? So
Cool.
I can change this little icon up here by setting a picture to it here.
Yeah.
I can change the size either here or over here where I've got size right there. So you can set the colors, you can set all kinds of things, right? There's tons of stuff. You can change the font you want it to be. You can change the font size, whether you want it bold. Let's go ahead and make this bold. There we go. Now it's bold. I can set the size to, let's say, 14, because, I'm old and I have to have things a lot bigger now. You can say, we'll talk about docking some other time, but that's going to be really good. So enabled right now is true. I set it to false, and it will get grayed out, right? It'll start grayed out.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start this guy. And this is debugging mode. So there we go. And you see it started grayed out.
Yeah.
And that's quite often what you'll do with a submit button. So you'll keep it grayed out until all the information you need is there, till they fill in all the information, and then you can enable it. But it's a way to keep people from being able to submit incomplete information, right? You see that all the time on the web and in other stuff, right? Something's grayed out until you enter in all the info. So let's see, what else do we have here that could be interesting? Transparency key. Text for form 1. See, it says form 1 up there, and I'll say our first app, and there you go. It changes the form title.
Yep.
And let's see. You can leave it as form 1 if you want to. I usually, since this is the first thing that I see when I open my app, I usually like to call mine form main. And then I have like form databases or form AGs or something like that, right? And let's see, background color, and we're still at the form, right? So we could set the background color to anything we want. So right now it's on control, say active caption. So, ooh, you can make it pretty, right? You've seen that in ML, right? I changed the background color.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm going to leave it like this because I kind of like that color. So you've got all of these, and I can even change like the color of the font. Let's make the color of the font something cool. Let's go to, ooh, maroon. I like that. There we go. So now all the colors are maroon. And this is another thing that you can do really well is you can change the colors on the fly. So any of this stuff can be changed on the fly, right? And we do that in code all the time. And one that's really going to come in handy is with all the different things. I always forget the name of this one, so I have to hunt it out. It is visible, I think. Visibility. Visible it will be, I think. Is it not visible?
Visible or hidden.
Hidden, right. That's probably it. Do you see hidden?
No. Is it logged? No, that's not
No,
something.
it'll be visible or hidden. Transparency key, what cursor? Oh, duh, I'm at the form level.
Yeah.
So I need to go to like the button. That's why I can't find it. Visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
Equals true. So now if I say false, right? Now it goes away.
Yeah.
So that's real. That kind of stuff is really handy when you have like a label and you want to present a message to the user that something failed or succeeded, right? You'll have a label, like I'll have a label down here under the submit.
Right.
And I'll set it to, initially, I'll set it to hidden. So visible equals false. And then when I submit, based off of whatever I do there, if it comes back with an error, then I'll turn the text red and present the error message and then make it visible. Otherwise I'll make it green and say, hey, you're a star, right? And then make it visible, right? So stuff like that. And you can get to the events that you need, right? So you default to the button click, right? So on this button, you default to the click, even though if you come over here to this little events lightning, you can see all the events that are here. And all you got to do is like double click in one of these and it'll create the event for you and then take you to that part of the code and the code behind, right? But if you just double click on this button, it'll automatically create the click event. And then now you just have to write your code in here. So if I do something like whenever I click that button, I want to say label name dot text equals, I'll do that, And let's say right, and then I can say something like label name dot font dot, I wonder if there's a color here. Nope. So somehow I ended up going all the way over there. Stop it. Get in there. Label name dot for color probably equals color dot, and see, now you can just choose from your colors. We'll call this blue. There we go. And now I'll come back over here. Let me give that a little bit more space. And I've got to come back here and make it visible again. And is this one visible? Right, this one's false. So now, after I set both of those, I gotta say label name dot visible equals true. Let's see what that gets us. Did I not enable it? I may not have enabled it. Looking for enabled. Enabled is false. Yeah, see?
Yeah.
There we go.
Cool.
And, you know, those are the extreme basics, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I can close this now. And the exe is already created, right? When you debug it, it creates the exe. So I could send you that exe and it would work on your box.
Okay.
So it really is, and it's event-based programming, right? Because everything in here is an event. So almost anything you could think of to do here would, you know, is available to you, and you can write your own code to do something. So for now, let's start simple. And I want you to write an app that maybe has a couple buttons, maybe a couple text boxes right here. And I want you to change the text in one box. And in fact, that's a really good idea. We'll have two text boxes here, right? And I want you to change the text in one box to match the text of this box as you type. I want to be able to do it two ways, right? I want to, so maybe have like these two guys over here with a button right there. And when you hit submit, whatever is in this box will show up in this box. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And then you'll have another set, and I'm just going to copy these guys. You'll have another set that as you type in this one gets changed. And this is stretching because I've only shown you the basics, right? But that just means that you've got to pick the right event. Hint, 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 hint.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And name your objects well, right? Let's go ahead and get in the habit of naming your objects well. And we'll take a look at it tomorrow and see how you did.
Okay.
And in fact, yeah, let's just stop there. Yeah, we'll just stop there. So this one, you type, hit submit, and it duplicates it over here.
Yeah.
This one changes as you type.
As you write. Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. That is your first official lesson. And don't get hung up on the C sharp, right? Because look at that. That's PowerShell,
Yeah.
right? There's not much difference here. If you get stuck, you can ask me or you can Google it because, you know, I think one or two people have written on C sharp. I'm sure you'll be able to find something. But so far we're not doing anything that isn't almost directly out of PowerShell, right? The only thing that we would do differently on PowerShell is that, right?
Yep. Yep. The variable dollar.
And probably that.
Yes.
So that's the only thing we would do differently. But C sharp requires semis. So you're already used to that. See? I told you
Yeah.
you'd appreciate that one day.
Yep. Yep.
My son, my 14-year-old, last week told me that the reason I couldn't understand what he was saying is because he wasn't finishing his sentences in semicolons. I said, sure, dude, whatever. All right, man. I'm going to go ahead and stop the tape and I will start it up and I will post this as soon as I can. I'll compile it right now. And you can go back and watch this if you need to.
Yeah, will do.
Cool. All right, let's go ahead and stop this recording.